Hello, everybody, and welcome back to One Hub Racing. We are here on another Sunday evening, and we are here to celebrate tonight because Samstar was crowned the champion in Japan, Jono, but we'll come to that in a minute. Welcome to the Late Night Talk Show. This is our 17th episode, believe it or not, and welcome to everyone who's going to come and join us. Jono, busy weekend in the steward's office, or how's it been so far?
Looking pretty quiet so far, actually. Not too many incidents to look at. ODEMs and MLA are in there, one each for each of them, and just one or two others. So, yeah, at the moment, not too bad. But obviously, the office is open until midnight, so you've got a couple of hours left yet if you want to get any incidents submitted.
And the thing I want to ask you about that is, do you think drivers drive with more caution when there's grass and gravel either side and they know one mistake, you know, perhaps, and that's it? And do you think that, are in drivers' heads in these sorts of circuits and perhaps that's why we see less contact and all-out moves?
Yeah, perhaps so. I mean, you can't take the same risk, can you, in these sort of circuits? And a lot of it's quite narrow as well. Obviously, the first sector, really, once you're through turn one, that's pretty much, follow the leader then until you get to the second and third sectors at least. And yeah, there's just less places, I think, to go side by side. A lot of the more modern wide tracks, we think they're great for overtaking, and there is plenty of chances, but it does lead to a lot of incidents where the cars trying to go side by side through corners and getting tangled up. But yeah, a lot of Suzuka, obviously, you've really single file through the corners. So yeah, perhaps just less chances really for drivers to come together.
We saw another first lap incident in the Pinnacle tier, but we'll come to that in a minute. First of all, the podium tier, Jono. It's a difficult track at its best, particularly the first sector and a few corners in the last sector. Obviously, you've got 130R, worn tires. Starts to get a bit difficult, but intermediate conditions for the podium tier boys. They handled it quite well, I thought.
Yeah, they did handle it pretty well, didn't they? We've getting to the latter part of the season. We've all seen rain at least a couple of times now in qualifying and race conditions. So yeah, all the boys seem to know what they were doing, didn't they? And there wasn't too many incidents caused by the weather.
And Dane Starr beating his rival CXY to pole position, and little did we know that they were going to be in for a titanic battle through the first half of the race. That's got to boost Dane Starr's confidence just by a tenth of a second. Jura in third, Madrid Duck fourth, Buffy Dweller fifth, Nick in sixth, Liam in seventh, Jonas in eighth, Kullerman on his debut in ninth position, Jamie in 10th. And then outside the top 10, Stevie in 11th, Rex in 12th, 13th, Nathan on his debut, 14th was D-Boy Dan. Gazer obviously didn't set a time, I believe he binned it. Hersto back in his return in 15th, and White Eagle qualified in 16th position. A good turnout, has to be said, in all three tiers this week, Jono.
Yeah, it was really good turnout, and yeah, I mean it's a fantastic circuit to drive. One of my favourites to drive, and so yeah, I think most of the drivers they possibly can, they're going to want to turn up for the Japanese Grand Prix.
Alrighty, as the start gets underway, Jono, you've obviously won around here, I believe. It's a start where you always feel a little bit nervous heading towards turn one because it's one of those corners high speed, and if someone thinks about sending it up the inside, it'll be absolutely detrimental to your race.
Yeah, it's one of those that you want to be on pole position, but it does put you on the outside for turn one. So if the driver on the inside gets even partially alongside you, it's really risky then. You don't know where to back out, let them go for it. And, you can even try and go side by side through the first part of the corner. So, yeah, it's definitely not a dead cert being on pole position here that you're going to come out of the first few corners in front.
We saw this battle develop between CXY and Danestar, and on lap 2, CXY got past, and he looked to have the pace, but then as the stint went on, Danestar was able to pull him back in. And interestingly enough, Jono, and I saw this not just with this battle, but the overcut here actually worked to a better effect than the undercut, which I always find it really interesting when that happens.
Yeah, we saw that, yeah, like you say, in a couple of the tiers, didn't we, from quite a few of the drivers as well, where, yeah, the overcut was able to gain them time, wasn't it? Drivers switching to the harder compound, but the medium tyre in particular, it just didn't have pace, did it? Especially not straight away. Took a few laps to switch on, so drivers were able to go a bit longer on the soft compound tyres, and they were able to come out in front.
Yeah, really interesting. I know those medians when I did a practice race on him. They went on. You could set quickest lap times 15 laps on him. So they were a good tire, but as you said, just getting him up to temperature took a bit of time. So Danestar ended up winning because the contact between himself and CXY, which was so minor, Jono, CXY ended
Yeah, it
up getting
was.
wing damage from him, which I felt really robbed us. They were having such a good battle. And being respectful, which is what we want to see. And the game obviously decided that contact was enough to wing damage around here. Really does end your hopes of a good result like that if you're battling for the win.
Yeah, it was a real shame, wasn't it? It was like you said, the contact was pretty small, tiny bit of carbon fibre you could see come off the Ferrari, but you couldn't really see barely any wing damage on the car at all. And we know from real life cars will lose complete end plates, won't they? And they'll still be, almost as quick as they were beforehand. But unfortunately, on the game and for CXY, it's not the case. A little bit of damage just absolutely killed his downforce through those medium and high speed corners, and he just fell back from there, which was a real shame, as you say. Brilliant battle up till then, and I think it would have been till the end of the race. It would have been difficult to separate them, but unfortunately for them, or for CXY, wing damage managed to put pay to the battle.
So top four stayed as they were in qualifying. They all started and finished in the same position. So CXY second, Jorrit third. Didn't really seem to have the pace today, Jorrit. So if he wants to really challenge for that title, he's going to need to start beating Danestar consistently over the next few races. That's the best he can do. Liam in fifth position. Gaza moved up from 17th on the grid, so good recovery drive from him. Jonas didn't really show that much pace, I felt, in seventh. Colomano's debut was obviously involved in that incident with Jonas and Buffy Dweller, I believe. So that was unfortunate on his debut, but nevertheless, he showed quite good pace, I thought, considering he too stopped and finished in eighth around this track. I'd have to say, overall, he can take confidence from his race pace, particularly.
Yeah, definitely, and he'd have certainly been higher up than eighth if it wasn't for the incident you mentioned with Buffy Dweller and Jonas. I mean, that put him in the wall and with wing damage, so completely ruined his stint, didn't it? So to have that happen and still be eighth, he's in the points, and yeah, there's definitely more to come.
Alrighty, so making out the top 10 was Stevie and Nick also finishing the points. Nick obviously DNF'd in 10th position, so he won't be receiving the point for that. Disappointing day for him. Mercedes not seeming able to really challenge Red Bull. Ferrari looked like the only constructor that could upset the party at the Red Bull camp. Let's move over to the Pinnacle tier, and Mally took another pole position. He's getting a bit of a habit of that, but he didn't have it all of his way in this Pinnacle race, Jono, in what turned out to be an amazing battle right until the final chicane on the final lap.
Yeah, fantastic battle. Really exciting to commentate on that one. And initially, we thought Mali might run away with it, but didn't happen, and it led for a fantastic battle, didn't it? As you say, right till the very end.
Pete obviously got a lightning start from second on the grid, led away, but Pete's had an interesting season because he's been one of those drivers, complains he's involved in a lot of incidents, but a lot of what I saw in the race, perhaps could have been avoided if he had been slightly more, cautious and giving slightly more space.
Mm.
Do you think, he's one of those drivers that, attracts incidents, or do you think he's one of those drivers that can perhaps look at themselves to do more to avoid it?
I think everyone can always do more, can't they? I mean, you do make your own luck, I think, in any sort of form of racing, really. Anyone can get caught out unluckily in an incident, but when it keeps happening to you, you've got to look, closer to home, I think. And he does take a few too many risks, I think, and maybe isn't quite as consistent as he could be. It's sort of frustrating to commentate on him because we see how quick he is. I mean, getting it, on P2 on the grid here, he's got the pace to compete with the front guys, but unfortunately for him, not the consistency. But he's got a few rounds left now to try and get some good results, and then he's definitely got the speed to build on it next season if he can find the consistency to go with it.
Interestingly, Brumadinho got really unlucky last week in the race, and then he got unlucky here. His race was over almost before it started. A passenger, and I think it was a Toro Rosso, just decided that he wanted to take his left front Pirelli with them for the race. And yeah, his day ended early. White Fountain as well was in the car that was involved in that. spinning on track. So yeah, not a good day for him or the Sauber team, to be perfectly honest. But we won't talk about the championship too much because obviously Sam's going to join us. But I found in this tier, as the race went on, that the racing was very clean, really good. Drivers were happy to not fight a car to the absolute limit because I think they felt they could get him back.
Yeah, definitely. It was really, really good racing, wasn't it? From most of the guys that we saw on the stream, and yeah, people were giving each other space, and it was fair racing. And you weren't sort of on your edge of your seat thinking, "Oh my God, at any moment this is going to go over the limit and it's all going to kick off," as we've seen a few times this season, especially in the pinnacle tier, I guess. But yeah, this week I think everyone just reined it in a little bit, didn't they? And it meant we had really, really good racing, and people were able to push till the end.
Also, the interesting thing about the battle for the lead with Donkor and Mali, Donkor got past him. I thought that's it now. Donzel's going to be able to keep that, but then he went deep, didn't he? I can't remember what corner it was. He went deep. Mali got him back, and then I think Donkor tried on the last lap, but Mali was able to keep the position. Is that how it went? And did you when you were commentating live, John, did you think that were you able to figure out who was going to win, or were you just clueless as to who was out the two of them was going to be able to cross the line first?
Yeah, I mean, obviously on outright pace, there was very little between them, was there? I felt like Donkor was really on the limit for several laps, but he was able to close Mali down, from that little gap he had. He closed the gap down, so you'd imagine he had a couple of tenths on him. But when he caught him up, it became clear to me and Kieran commentating that Mali looked quicker on the straight, so in the final sector particularly. But Donkor was quicker through the first sector. But of course, it doesn't matter how quick you are in the first sector. If you're stuck behind somebody, you can't exploit the pace. So I guess Mali always had the advantage of having the quicker car in a straight line, and often that's what you need to be able to defend from at the end of the race. And I think that might have just made the difference for him at the end. Donkor may have had a very, very small pace advantage. But in terms of the better race car for battling with, maybe Mali had the edge there with slightly better top speed.
Flo and Sam, they had a battle all the way through, and they were a good example of clean racing. They're happy to perhaps yield the position because they thought they could get it back at next lap. And in the end, Reflo beat Sam on penalties, so that was payback for Austria earlier on in the season where the reverse happened. But I think Sam in the end was he had a good race to get his championship, but I think at the end you just want to cross the line, don't you? You just want it to be over. I remember being on headset with you, Jono, both times when you won your championship, and you were just so thankful that it was mathematically done.
Yeah, it's just that psychological thing. It's under your control, but until it's done, it is not over, is it? And I think Sam he drove a good race. I think he was cautious where he needed to be from watching what we saw on the stream, and he had to make some overtakes as well though early on in the race, particularly. And Reflow kept him honest there for a long time as well, so he couldn't just sit back and relax and take the points. And they had a good little battle between them as well, as you say. But Sam just did what he needed to do in the end, didn't take any undue risks, and yeah, brought it home. And as I say, beat Reflow on track, I think it was, but then got leaped with the penalty at the end. But I think you won't care about that, will he? It got in the championship.
Yeah, definitely. Also, Matt finishing in fifth. He was one of the ones that suffered, so he tried for the undercut, and his teammate Sam actually overcut him. It's just really interesting how that works at some tracks and others. It just costs you so much time. Lukey finishes in sixth, another good result for him from 18th on the grid as well. So last place to sixth. Another good result, up for Driver of the Day nomination again on Twitter at One Hub Racing. I'm West. Had that incident on the last, was it the penultimate lap or something really close to that, and he lost a big chunk of time. Otherwise, him and Lukey were in for a final showdown. Of course, both Haas drivers in the points, 8th and 9th for Jor and TK. I know TK was involved in some incident I saw, but I don't know if it's in the steward's office. I don't think it is. Lawrence managed to claim the final point scoring position. M4 Premium did 150 laps or something in time trial, he said, and he got no points as his reward in 11th place. So just shows you, John, time trial, as we all keep saying, perhaps isn't the way forward. Let's head over to the prestige tier. Julian was back, pole position, ahead of VSR Josh, interestingly. So the other Sauber tried to give him a hard time. This is Wayne, looks really quick here. And his teammate Rafa told me that whenever he puts in practice, he does have this sort of pace inside him. So it's just interesting, when you put in the practice, you can get third on the grid, and he ended up finished it in third, which is good for himself. But Jono, we had some interesting battling going on between the VSR boys of Francis and Blizzard in qualifying. Did you catch it at all?
I didn't catch the battling in qualifying. No, fill me in.
So basically, I believe Francis held Blizzard up on his hot lap, just coming under the bridge, and then they were kind of side by side, like one passing the other, like showing each other they weren't happy. And then coming out the hairpin, Blizzard spun Francis and then carried on. Francis at the end of the lap at the chicane hit Blizzard and spun him, and then they both returned to the pits. And then in the race, they started after the first lap. They were actually behind each other. But I spoke to Odems, who's another VSR boy, and he said no, there was no like hard feeling. They weren't angry with each other or anything like that. They were just, I guess, venting how they felt. But nevertheless, not good to see from two guys that are meant to be on the same team in a sense.
Yeah, it's a little bit silly by the sound of it, and yeah, it doesn't really help either of them, does it, in trying to get themselves up the grid, especially Blizzard, fighting for the championship potentially, or still in a championship hunt. So a little bit silly to be messing about in quali, I guess, but yeah, sounds like no hard feelings.
All right, as the race went on, again, some nice race-long battles. Josh and Julian, it went on for the whole race, and let's not skip right to the end, but some guys moving up the order. Neo from 16th on the grid up to 4th in on the second race with us. Extended actually held up Julian, ruined one of Julian's lap in qualifying as well, but he just didn't see him, apologised, and Julian said no problem. There was some contact between MLA and Odems at the chicane and then at turn 1. You obviously can't say too much, Jonah, because it's in the steward's office, but just give us your thoughts on a rough basis on those two.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, both of them on the limit, I think, and some aggressive overtake attempts. But, some far worse incidents this season, that's for sure. No massive harm done to either of their races. So, yeah, both in the stewards, but yeah, I don't think either incident's going to affect their race results too much.
McSendit obviously started on those medium tyres. Obviously, all the drivers knew the rain was coming, but McSendit tried to push him a little bit too far, ended up with a puncture. So he either seems to win, does McSendit, or have something to make him finish in the lower part of the points. But yeah, just tried to push the tyres too far, but maybe worth a try.
Yeah, I mean, it was sort of win or bust, wasn't it, with that strategy that he ran? It gave him the potential to win the race, as you mentioned. Seems to be win or it goes wrong, and I think he just thought, he just wanted to try and win the race, didn't he? Give it a good go. If the rain had come a little bit heavier, a couple of laps earlier, perhaps it would have been an absolute masterstroke, wouldn't it? But yeah, unfortunately for him, ran out of tyres before the end, and yeah, that put pay to his hopes.
Scott Fielder was our first retiree, so not having the season that he wanted. I know he feels his pace is more suited to the pinnacle tier, but with only a few races left, we'll have to see whether next season he'll be in a lower tier. He'll be able to fight at the front. Lukaku got stuck in the pits, so that was a little bit disappointing for himself. And Blizzard failed to finish, so he was really helping the Mercedes and Julian by not scoring any points. Let alone challenging Julian. So that title looks set to be decided next week in USA. So I'll definitely be watching that. But Julian ended up taking the win. Those last few laps looked very uncomfortable for those drivers.
Yeah, it was really awkward, wasn't it? It's very difficult to know what to do in those conditions. Not enough laps left to pit for the intermediates, you think, but it does make it really, really hairy. But we know both Julian and Josh, they both coped well, didn't they? We know Julian doesn't make many mistakes, so he was able to drive within the limits, wasn't he? And he managed to do what he does best, I guess, really, and bring it home as he often does. And he even managed to negotiate that turn 18. The final corner was causing drivers all sorts of trouble, not just in this tier, but in all the tiers. That bump costing a couple of drivers, but yeah, able to negotiate okay. And Julian he just still looks as great as ever, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's just like he never went away. Josh finishing second. Good result for him, though. He should be able to build confidence from that. Good qualifying, good race. This is Wayne's first podium, so congratulations to him. He's up for driver of the day, as is Neo, finishing in fourth. Odem's in fifth. He's really starting to pick up some consistent results, is Odem's. Top five, top five, top five. I think that's 4 in a row now.
Yeah, he's just always finishing there or thereabouts, isn't he? Either just on the podium or, as you say, fourth or fifth. He's just always there or thereabouts, and yeah, really consistent. He's got a good pace, hasn't he? And seems to keep himself out of trouble more often than not. And I think he'll be pretty pleased with how his season's gone.
Yeah, Francis finishing in sixth. He's had a few bad results, so back in the points for one of our race premium drivers. Jesse finishing in seventh. Rafa recovering to eighth after his quali ban. Extended, as you mentioned, got a punctured, recovered to ninth. LQ took the final point. MLA finished just outside the point. Bit of a disappointing race for him, where he seemed to have a good qualifying. It's usually the other way around. He doesn't have the best qualifying and moves forward, but nevertheless, 4 races left for MLA before he retires. So hopefully he can score some good results to end his one hub racing and league racing career. But now, Jono, I think it's time we get another champion in here. Big welcome to Sam, who's joining us in the late night talk show, and just make sure your voice is set to be shared. Sam, obviously we are live, so no swearing. I know you're a very happy boy. First of all, congratulations from myself and all of us at One Hub Racing on your championship. You are officially a One Hub Racing champion.
It sounds weird saying that, but yeah, thanks.
Now talk to me. Talk to me about this. What do you put the championship down to? Do you put it down to consistency or outright pace, or what do you put this championship down to that's been different perhaps than other seasons?
I think you've got to have like the good mix of everything. But if there's one attribute that's sort of led me all the way here, it's definitely been consistency. But yeah, like which has never been my strong point really. I think you remember last season I was always sort of bottling races and crashing out. I've just sort of managed to keep it going and being patient now.
And obviously you won it in Japan. You knew you could win it in Japan. Um, do you think there was more pressure on that race? Did you feel more nervous heading into the race?
I actually did, even though like realistically it shouldn't have been too difficult, but I still got quite nervous at the beginning because obviously it's a track where it's you're very likely to have incidents and stuff, and yeah, it was like any other race where at the start I was quite nervous, but it felt a bit weird.
Awesome, Jono. Obviously, 2 championships yourself. So Sam following in the footsteps. You commentated him, the entire way through the Pinnacle tier this season. He's got 4 races to just enjoy himself now. But talk us through, his drive to the championship from round 1 from your perspective as a commentator.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that he just comfortably deserves it, doesn't he? As you say, Mr. Consistent, I guess, but it's easy to say that and then forget that he's also got really, really good pace. If not always the quickest on track, he's always in the top sort of 3 or 4, being the quickest everywhere. And you need the pace as well. You can be consistent, but if you're always at the back consistently, it won't get you anywhere. So you need to be quick as well, which he definitely was. And one thing that impressed me as well was others went on bad runs. For 3 or 4 races at a time, we saw Donko winning a few, but then going on some bad runs, and same with Reflow as well. But Sam had a few dips. Like I think France was one where he didn't get the best result in the world, but next race back there again, and like it never happened really. So consistency and being good on every circuit as well, really, whether it's high speed or sort of some of the lower speed twisted circuits. That's what you need to get the title and to get it with 4 rounds to go. Pretty pleased. So Sam, I think it's been awesome drive all season. Looking forward to seeing what you manage in the future.
Speaking of, before we head to the future, Sam, speaking of the races so far, do you have a particular favourite moment from the season so far, or was it just crossing the line in Japan, knowing that you'd done it?
I knew this question was going to come up, and I've been thinking about it. And the truth is, I can't remember much that's happened because it's been such a long season. But I think just some races where, because actually being consistent is also good when other people don't have the best races. But the best moments have been where I feel like I've been the quickest person and I've won the race, no matter whatever happened to anyone else. And I think that happened in China and also Austria, when me and Reflo had like a battle all race long. So it's probably one of those two races.
Awesome stuff, and obviously you won the constructors as well, yourself and Matt, your friends in real life. Obviously, I met you guys when we went go-karting in January. So you achieved your goal. You're both constructors champions. So you're both going to get trophies. Sam, obviously, you'll get 2 of them. But talk us through what's it like to win a championship with a close friend in real life. And did you know that it was you would either win it or not win it depending on if Don Call and the battle with Don Call and Mally? Did you know that obviously they made they were side by side in the last chicane, I believe, Jono? Did you know that had Don Call crossed the line first, it would have gone on to USA, or were you not aware of that?
I remember I said to him, because I could see on the mini-map that Don Call was getting very close to Manny, and I thought this would be interesting, but there was no mention of how it would affect us. We sort of just cracked on. And at the end, after about, I don't know, a good few minutes after, he sort of said to me, I think we did it, like exactly, I think we got the points. And I was like, no, there's no way we did it because we only got 4th and 5th. And I worked out and literally we got the bare minimum to do it, which was quite a nice feeling.
Yeah, it definitely is. And obviously, you've raced with us, what season? Did you race in season 8 with us?
If that was the full season, no. It was the
No, so it's
half
9,
season after.
10, 11, and now 12. 4th season, You've won the Drivers' Championship. What are your goals now? Obviously, Jono is on 2 titles. Ermi's on 3 titles. Bisas is on 2 titles. Do you think you can go on to, really cement your place in the One Hub Racing history books?
I'm not going to write off winning another one for sure, but a lot of it depends on, especially if there's going to be more tiers next year. It depends on placement, but I like to think I've always got fast each season, and I think I can carry on, and definitely who knows.
Awesome stuff, and just a quick mention for your teammate Matt, and also and what sort of support he's been this season, and also your rivals who fell before you.
Yeah, honestly, having a teammate like as close as Matt can be a bit of a hindrance because some races we're so closely paced, but majority of the time it's just like a dream. It's just easy to have someone to sort of just even just talk to you to distract you. Like doing a quali lap on your own is quite nerve-wracking. You think about all the things that can go wrong, but it's just a better way to enjoy it, and it helps when he's pretty fast as well.
Definitely does. This season, as you mentioned, it's been long. 17 rounds in, started back in October. Been an absolute marathon. Has it really taken it out of you? Do you feel as a driver you're just ready for a break and you feel quite tired?
Honestly, no. Like it's easy to. I think when you get in a bit of dip of form, it's like, oh, I can't wait for this to end. But I've sort of been able to bounce back from each mistake. I'd say like Singapore and France are the main races that I've struggled with. But no, it'd be nice to get to the end of the season, but I'm still going to approach the last few races exactly the same. I'm not leaving up at all.
Awesome stuff, Jono. Do you have a question for the newly crowned champ before we end the talk show?
Yeah, well, you just mentioned obviously Matt has been a fantastic teammate this season. He's supported you, where he's needed to. But I'm just looking at the Drivers' Championship, and like you could still get second theoretically in the Drivers' Championship. Are the roles going to reverse a bit for the final 4 rounds? You're going to do all you can to help him get as high up the table as he can.
I mentioned this to him because last year he somehow snuck to second where he didn't really feel he's second in terms of pace. And we've looked at it and yeah, I'm definitely gonna for what I can do is give him like sometimes in races I'll get priority on pit stops or whatever just because obviously I'm in the title fight, but I'll definitely be behind him to get second place now because it's definitely possible.
Awesome stuff. Just last one, Danestar wants to know USA predictions. Who's going to win from each tier? I'll go first. I'm going to say that CXY is going to win in podium. I'm going to say that Reflow's going to win in USA, and I'm going to say that Odems is going to win in USA as well, and obviously Julian will wrap up the championship in USA. What about you guys? What do you think?
Who does?
Go on, Sam.
Ooh. I'll go. Tartap's not great at USA, so I'm gonna have to rule Daystar out of that one. But yeah, I'll go CXY for podium. I think for R tier, oh, that's a tough one. I think I'll swing it back to Donkor this time, but it'll be close between him, Reflow, and Mali. Not one of my strongest tracks. And then for Prestige, I'm gonna say McSend it.
Okay, I'm gonna say Jorah in podium tier. He needs the win. I think he'll manage to get it somehow. I'm going to go with Don Cool as well in pinnacle tier. He fought so well last time in Suzuka, and I think he's due at least one more win before the end of the season. So I'll go for that of USA, and I'm going to say Julian in the Prestige because I think he'll want the title and the win at the same day. So I'm going to back him to win.
Awesome stuff. Well, Sam, welcome to the history books. You join myself, Ermi, Tempfear, Jono, Chris, Leo, Lukey, Kian, Bisas, Reflow, Learning the Wheel, or Aladiaz, and now yourself as a champion at One Hub Racing. So congratulations to you from all of us here at One Hub Racing. Thank you everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And of course, you can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. 4 rounds to go of Season 12. We end on the 29th of March, but we've got plenty of action and plenty of titles left to decide. It's all over in the pinnacle tier, but we've got plenty to play for in both the podium and the prestige. Best of luck to all the drivers next week. And once again, Jono, Sam, thank you for joining me. Sam, you are the champion. Congratulations.